Hey, welcome to Dating Advice for Men Who Love Women. In this presentation, we're going to talk about why being too available to a woman can lower her romantic interest in you. And then we're going to talk about how that actually plays out in real life and some specific things that you can do to make sure that a woman doesn't think that you're too available. And so let's get started with why being too available actually puts female romantic interest at risk in the first place. Why is that? It seems like it would be a good thing, right? To kind of always be there for someone that you care about or that you like them. And it's kind of natural when you like someone to want to spend as much time as possible with them. So why does this happen? Why does being too available destroy female interest in most cases? There are actually a lot of reasons for this, and we're going to go over 6 of those right now. So the first reason that being too available puts female romantic interest at risk is that it affects your value and your standing in her mind. In other words, the way that she perceives your value as a potential mate. Okay, so I don't want to get too into kind of playing games here because that's not what this channel is all about. We're not about playing games. However, if a woman asks you to come over and mow her lawn and you've only been on a date or 2 with her and you haven't even kissed yet, and she's asking you for a big favor like that, and you immediately say, yeah, I can come over and mow your lawn right now, and then you go mow her lawn and do her that big favor, that's going to diminish your standing a lot. And it shows that you don't really respect yourself and your time that much, and that's going to lower your standing in her mind, whether she wants it to or not. And by the way, most women are not going to ask you to do a big favor like that if they're super interested in you right away. And it's fine to do that once she's actually your girlfriend and she's in love with you. But it's not okay to do that if you haven't even been on a date with her yet, or you've only been on a couple of dates and you're just in that early phase. So during the first 2 to 3 months that you're dating a woman, we definitely don't want to be too available. That's basically the time frame that we're looking at in this presentation, those first 2 to 3 months or 6 to 10 dates or so. So you don't want to be too available during that time. Later you can do favors for her, but not right away. And that's part of being too available. Or if every single time she texts you, you text her back within 25 seconds. That also kind of shows that you don't have a lot going on. You're not that successful maybe in her mind, in her subconscious mind. It just shows that you're kind of sitting there by your phone waiting for her to text you or call you or whatever, and you're always there for her. Or if every single time she asks you to come hang out, you do it, you kind of jump towards that, that means that you don't really have anything going on in your own life. And then what value are you bringing her? And so being too available to a woman too soon definitely affects your perceived value in her mind. And that's one of the reasons why it threatens her romantic interest in you. And if you do it too much, it's going to take her interest all the way down to 0, assuming she has interest in you in the first place. So again, first, it affects your perceived value in her mind as a potential mate. That's number 1. Number 2, it also puts a little bit of what I call relationship pressure into your connection with a woman. So this is something that I talk about all the time, and I think it's one of the critical things to think about when you're first dating a woman. What we want to do is not put any what I call relationship pressure into your connection with a woman during the beginning stages of dating. And relationship pressure is basically 2 things. It's first, acting as if you're already in a relationship with her when you're not yet. And it's also putting a lot of pressure on getting that outcome of getting into a relationship with her. And if you have that pressure where you're either acting like she's your girlfriend or your wife already and she's not, or you really care about that outcome and you really want that to happen and you're really pushing for it, and that comes out in your actions and behaviors and words, that's going to put her romantic interest at serious risk as well. And when you're too available to a woman, that kind of is you saying like, hey, we're already together, we're going to be together, we should be together, let's be together. It's a lot of relationship pressure really early on in your connection with the woman. And that also threatens her interest in you. So we don't want to put any relationship pressure. What we actually want is for her to put relationship pressure into the connection and you not to. That's the key. We encourage her to do that. She should eventually start getting frustrated and say something like, hey, like, where's this relationship going? Are we going to be together or what? Like, we want her to get to that point. We don't want to put pressure on that, because pressure has the opposite effect of lowering her interest. And we want her interest to go up until she's like, hey, I'm ready for this. Let's do it. Let's be together. That's what we're looking for. Because we don't know the right time to ask her to be our girlfriend, and she does. And the time is right once she brings it up. So we don't bring it up. We don't put relationship pressure on the situation. And we don't want to be too available too soon, because that does put that relationship pressure into your connection with her, and that threatens her interest in you as well. And then next, number 3, this is a very critical component of male-female dynamics that we need to understand. Your interest in a woman doesn't make her more interested in you. Okay, so whether your interest in her is a 6 or an 8 out of 10 does not make her more interested just because you're an 8. Telling her like, hey, I like you as an 8 or 9 out of 10, I'm at this high level of interest in you, doesn't make her more interested in you. In fact, a lot of times it lowers her interest in you when you make that clear. So here's the thing. Yes, you're interested in her, and that's a good thing. And she already knows that, by the way, because you asked her for her number. You asked her on a date. You're going for a kiss by the end of the second date. You're making it clear by your actions that you're interested in her. However, you kind of trying to convince her that you're more interested in her than any other guy is, doesn't make her like you more. In fact, it makes her like you less most of the time. And so when you're too available to a woman in these early phases of dating, or even without dating her at all, maybe she's just your friend, well, you showing that level of interest in her doesn't make her like you, and it doesn't make her like you more if she likes you a little bit. And that's all we want to do during this early phase of dating. All we want to focus on is raising her interest from wherever it is now, if it's above 0, to the point where it hits 9 out of 10 or higher. And that's when she's deeply in love with you. That's when she's ready to commit to you. And that's when you can start the next maintenance phase of the dating process. But until then, we must focus on raising her interest level, and your interest in her, expressing your interest in her really strongly and trying to show her how interested you are, is not one of the things that raises her interest. And being too available shows your high interest in too strong of a way, and that puts her interest at risk, actually. All right, and then next, number 4, being too available puts female romantic interest at risk because a woman tends to fall in love slower than you. This is also another key component of male-female dynamics. So basically, the beginning stages of dating, the way I see it, for the most part, is just waiting for her interest in you to catch up to your interest level in her. So when you meet a woman that you really like, you're feeling really strong about it, and you really want to be with her, maybe your interest is already at 8 or 9 out of 10. When a woman meets you, it's probably going to be 4, 5, 6 out of 10 if you're doing well. And then over time, over that 6 to 10 week period, it starts going up if you do everything right to 6.5, 7, 8, and you're already at that 9. But it's going to take her a few dates, a few weeks at least, probably, to make it to that same point, assuming that you do everything right and you don't do things that put her interest at risk. And so this is all about female interest. It's great if she wants to be your girlfriend after the second date. Awesome. If that idea comes totally from her and you didn't put that idea into the connection, okay, I would still wait a little while before you agree, but that's what we want. We want this coming from her, because her interest could be a 1, or it could be a 6, or it could be an 8, or it could be a 9 already, which is very rare. And most of the time, it's gonna take more time for her to get to that point than it does for you. So the way you feel after 1 or 2 dates with a woman where you're really vibing with her and you really like her and you want to really be with her, it's going to take her 6 dates to feel that same way about you. And this is just about letting her get to that point. That's all this is. That's the main thing. It's not really about playing games. It's just acknowledging the reality that women tend to fall in love slower than men. because of the qualities that they're looking for and how they find them. And you just need to sit back, relax, not put any relationship pressure into the situation, not be too available, get to know her, have fun with her, and allow her interest in you to catch up to your interest in her by not always being available to her, by being a challenge sometimes, and then leading the next step forward and asking her out on the next date. But we have to give her time and space away from us and not be too available so that her interest can grow over time and eventually catch up to ours and hopefully pass it a little bit. And that's when you're in the zone where you can really have a great relationship with her. All right, and then next, number 5, being too available kills female interest because healthy relationships have boundaries. Okay, so here's the thing about romantic relationships in the Western world right now. There's a lot of unhealthy ideas out there about how relationships should be. And we really shouldn't be spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with someone, constantly calling and texting them and messaging them. And no. Healthy relationships have boundaries. You should have your own life. She should have her own life. And then you should have a life that you share together. And you create this new thing in between your whole selves. You actually do not complete each other. You are already complete. She's already complete. And now you're creating something new together. That's what a healthy relationship is. And why would you want to start off a long-term relationship where maybe you're going to be with her for 5 years or 10 years or 50 years in an unhealthy way already? Why do we want to start so fast? Why do you like a woman a lot and then you want to be with her 24 hours a day already? Why would you already start putting yourself into that unhealthy place? If you want to be with her for 25 years, let's take it slow in the beginning and continue that as long as possible and keep those boundaries forever a little bit. That's one thing that helps us maintain that freshness over a long period of time. So when you're on a first date with a woman and you really like her, you should be thinking, maybe I'll be with her for the next 50 years. There's no rush. Let's get to know each other and have fun and let it play out naturally and not put any relationship pressure into there and not make it unhealthy. And when you are too available to a woman, that's already in that unhealthy zone of basically over her boundary and you want her to be over yours. Instead of, hey, I have my own life, I have a lot of things going on, and I also like you, and I want to share this time that we're together with you. And then I'm going to go back to my life and live that for a little while, and then I'm going to come back and share a little more with you. So healthy relationships have boundaries, and if you're too available to a woman too soon, you're already putting yourself in an unhealthy place. And that means only a person who's used to having these kind of unhealthy relationships will respond well to that. And after 50 years, that's not what we want. We want to have a healthy relationship with a woman. So we want to set things up that way from the beginning. So that's another factor here. And then the last reason why being too available kills female interest is number 6. In the background, when you're too available to a woman, you're basically asking her to make your life okay or make your life good instead of sharing your already amazing life with her. So when you're too available to a woman, you're communicating to her very strongly that I don't have a lot going on, my life isn't that great, I don't have that much fun, I don't do things that I enjoy that often, and you are expected to be that thing that makes my life okay. And for a woman who has average self-esteem or better, or who has strong boundaries, that's not going to be okay with her, and it shouldn't be. It's not her job to make your life good. It's your job to make your life good and then share that good life with her. And she can make your already good life better. That's what an awesome, healthy relationship is. Both of you have a pretty good life already on your own. You're whole and complete on your own. And then you create something together and you share those good things together and you make each other's already good lives better. That's what we're looking for. And by the way, this might go all the way back into the deeper parts of yourself. If this isn't the case right now, maybe it's not the fact that you're just like a little too available in the early stages of dating. Maybe this goes all the way to the deepest level of, I need to live life the way I really want to. and create a life that I like, that I enjoy, that I can share with a woman. Maybe you need to do that first. Maybe this is even deeper than just kind of the tactics of dating. And we should take a look at that if we need to as well. And when you ask a woman to make your life okay, you're basically taking something from her instead of offering her some kind of value. And that's going to put her romantic interest at risk as well, because she wants to come into your reality a little bit. She wants to share the good things that you offer with you. And you should want that from her too. You guys should both be bringing something to the table already. And so at a deeper level, being too available communicates that maybe your life isn't so great the way it is, and you're asking her to make it okay. And that's going to put her interest at risk as well. And then the last thing I want to say in this section is just that if a woman's not interested in you romantically, then it doesn't matter at all. And so if a woman has zero romantic interest in you, it doesn't matter if you're too available to her or not. She sees you as a friend or whatever, hey, that's great. But you're not going to be able to raise her interest anyway, because if it's zero, there's nothing that we can do. And so if you're too available, if a woman's interested in you, that puts her interest in you at risk. And if she's not interested in you, it doesn't matter. So if you're too available to a woman in the early stages of dating, you always lose, because either she's not interested at all anyway and it doesn't matter, or she's interested and you're putting her romantic interest at risk for no reason. It doesn't help you. And if you're not too available, you always win, because if she is interested, you're not putting that at risk and you're allowing her interest to grow. And again, if she's not interested, it doesn't matter anyway. So being too available is always a losing move, and not being too available is always a winning move. And so how does this play out in real life? How can we start applying this right now in our connections with women? Well, the first way that you can apply it to your real life is, number one, this is kind of one of the best examples of how not to be too available out there that happens frequently. If you ask a woman out on a date, hey, let's meet at Starbucks on Wednesday at 7, and she just declines your date offer. So she doesn't say, hey, I can't make it on Wednesday, how about Thursday? If she just declines, like she says, oh, I can't make it that day, or no, I can't hang out that day, I'm busy. If she just declines without giving you a specific other day and time when she can meet up with you, so that's a full decline, you don't want to ask her out again immediately, which is what a lot of guys do. And that means that you're way too available and your standing is going to go down if you had any to begin with. So let's say you say, hey, do you want to meet at Starbucks on Wednesday at 7 p.m.? And she's like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't make it that day. And then you immediately say, how about Thursday? How about Friday? How about Saturday? How about Sunday? How about any day between now and the end of next year? Well, as soon as you make a move like that, you're basically going to crush all of her interest all the way down to zero, if she even has any at all in the first place. So this is a huge mistake that a lot of guys make, and we're not going to do it, because that makes you way too available and it crushes any interest she might have in you. So let's look at the scenario again. Let's say you say, hey, you want to meet at Starbucks on Wednesday at 7? Have a quick cup of coffee? And she's like, hey, I'm so sorry, I can't make it on Wednesday. And then you just say something like, okay, no problem, whatever it is. So she declines your date, and then you don't react to it too much. You just say, okay, sure. You do not immediately ask her out again, which is what a lot of guys do. Now, let's say she does have some interest in you and she was actually busy, and for some reason she didn't just make you a counteroffer right away, which most women who are really interested in you will do, by the way. But let's say she doesn't do that right away and you don't really react. Here's the thing. If she has interest in you and you don't react to that situation and you just kind of stop contacting her, you shouldn't keep texting her after that, by the way, because she declined your offer. So you stop texting her, and then 3 or 4 days later, she's like, hey, where did he go? Why is he not texting me anymore? Oh, wait. Oh, man, I said no to his date. I didn't tell him a different time. Okay. Now she's going to reach out to you if she's interested. And she's going to make it pretty clear that she would still like to hang out with you. And then you can ask her out one more time at that point. Or alternatively, you can wait 4 to 8 days and then try asking her out one more time. And if she declines your date offer twice without making a counteroffer, then it's time to move on because she's not interested. And the point here is that if you had immediately asked her out right away, let's say her interest in you is a 1 out of 10, if you don't ask her out immediately, she kind of gets the hint a little bit. She kind of sees that you're not going to react to it. Now her interest ticks up to 2 out of 10 and she texts you and says, "Hey stranger, what's going on?" And then you ask her out on the date and she says yes, and you keep doing everything right, and now her interest ticks up to 3, 4, 5, and eventually hits 9. Whereas if her interest in you is about a 1 or 2 out of 10 and she just declines your date offer and doesn't really think about giving you a counteroffer, and then you react right away by saying, like, how about Thursday, how about Saturday, how about Sunday, and all your days are open to her, all your times are open to her, now that 1 goes all the way down to 0 right away. Now, I just want to say, most of the time, if a woman declines your date offer without giving you a counteroffer, she's just not interested anyway. It's probably 0. But in the chance, the 5 or 10% chance that her interest is like 1 or 2 out of 10, and she just didn't make you a counteroffer immediately, she will make you a counteroffer if you let her, or if you ask her out a week later, she'll say yes to that one and actually show up for the date. And if she doesn't do that, then we move on to the next. Okay, so this is probably the best example of how to not be too available. You did your move. You were a leader. You asked her out on a date. You asked her for a specific day, time, and location. She declined your offer without saying, like, hey, how about Thursday instead? I'm open that day. And now we're not going to be too available by offering her other days and times ourselves. She has to do that. So she has to make a counteroffer. You're not going to make additional offers. Except if you wait for a week and then try one more time. You can try that as well. But again, the success rate is pretty low for that. But it's much better than asking her out right away immediately. So from now on, if a woman declines your date invitation, don't react to that and don't ask her out immediately right away because you're afraid of losing her. Because if she does have a little bit of interest, you're going to crush it all the way to 0. And if she doesn't have any interest at all, there's nothing you can do anyway. So just accept that and move on. All right, next, number 2. You want to wait to ask a woman out on the next date when you're on a date. So a lot of guys actually will go on a date with a woman and they're having a lot of fun with her, and then they'll try to ask her for the next date on the date itself. Or they'll text her immediately after the date and ask her to hang out again the next day. Or they'll text her the next day right away and just say, oh, let's meet up again tomorrow. We don't want to do that. That makes you too available. You should have a lot of fun things going on in your life that you enjoy doing, and it shouldn't be so much so fast. If that comes from her end, you can agree once in a while, but you still shouldn't constantly be available to her. And so what we want to do instead to make sure that her interest keeps going up over time and that we allow her interest in us to catch up with our interest in her is after we have an awesome date with a woman, that's great. We say goodnight to her. It's awesome. We send her a text if you want, one text that just says, hey, thanks for the fun time tonight, smiley face, boom, send it. And then we kind of want to disappear a little bit and let her think and wonder about what you're doing. If you're going to call her again, let her interest start to grow and catch up with yours, because that's the fertile ground where the seed of her interest grows the most, is between your dates where she's thinking and wondering about you and you're not contacting her, not when you're texting with her or on a date with her. Her interest grows the most in between dates if you let it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have an awesome time, say thanks for the fun time. Then we're going to disappear for a while, let her interest grow. And then after 4 to 8 days, we're going to ask her out on the next date. So we're just going to wait a while and then lead again. And that's another way to not be too available to a woman that you really like. And again, if she gets frustrated that you're not texting her enough or hanging out enough, and she says, hey, like, why don't we hang out more? Like, can I come hang out? If you get those messages from her, then you can see her a little more often or ask her out a little more often. But it's better for her to be a little frustrated like that and make moves like that on her end than for you to constantly keep going and putting pressure and rush into rejection and crush her interest. So it's fine if she's kind of pushing for more from you. That's great. That's actually what we want. It's not okay if you're pushing to get more time from you on your end towards her. Make sense? Cool. All right, next, number 3. You don't want to wait around your phone for her messages and calls. So you don't want to just be staring at your phone all day, like just waiting for it to buzz or to ring with her name on there. That makes you way too available, and if you do that, she's going to feel it eventually, and that's going to lower her interest. So don't just be sitting there waiting for her message or her call. Live your life, and then when you're ready to ask her out on the next date, ask her out. That's it. That's what we're going to do so that she doesn't get the impression that you're too available and that she doesn't see your value because you are an awesome guy, so we're going to act like it. And then she's going to see that, and you're both going to have a great connection with each other, and she's going to fall deeply in love with you like she's supposed to because you're awesome. So don't wait around like a puppy dog for her to call and text you. Don't be looking out for that. When it happens, it happens. You can see it 2 hours from now and text her back. It's not a big deal. All right, next, number 4. When you text her, this is related. After you send a text to her, go do something else for a while and then come back to your phone. This is a really good thing to do. So what you don't want in this early stage of dating is to get into a pattern of texting with her that's predictable. So sometimes you can respond right away because your phone's right there, you're not really doing anything, and you already had your phone in your hand, you're reading a newspaper article or something on your phone. And it's just sitting there in your hand and she texts you, you can respond, not immediately, but right after she texts you, you can respond like a normal person in that case, okay? But you don't want to always do that. Sometimes you want to respond a few hours later, or a few minutes later, or an hour later, or whatever. You don't want her to be able to predict when you're going to reply. And same thing goes when you're already in a texting conversation. Maybe you're cleaning your house and you send her a text, you put your phone down, you go do some dusting for a little bit, you come back, and then you send her the next text. So this is a really good way to practice the discipline of not being too available. When you're texting a woman you really like and you have high interest and it's trying to make you do all these things that lower her interest, one way to start kind of getting into the habit of controlling that is just going to do something else after you send her a text. So send her a text, go play 9 holes of golf, come back, text her again. Or send her a text, go into the other room and read a few pages of a book, come back and text her again. But don't always just text back and forth, text back, forth, back, forth, back, forth all day long. We don't want to have that kind of predictable pattern, and we don't want to text her back and forth too much. Because again, that doesn't give her the opportunity to raise her interest in you. And that's all we're doing in this early stages of dating. It's much better for her to fall deeply in love with you, and she's staring up at you with those googly eyes after 2 months and looking at you with that admiration and love and respect that she feels for you. That's much better feeling long term than the temporary validation of her buzzing your phone with a text and then next week she's not into you anymore. So go for that long-term satisfaction, delay your gratification a little bit, and make it all the way home instead of getting left on first. And one really simple way to get yourself in the habit of thinking this way is to send a text and then go do something else and then come back and send her the next one. All right, next, we just have 3 more. Number 5. Again, just like we just talked about, don't always reply to her immediately. If she calls you, you can call her back in a few hours or the next day. If she texts you, same thing. What if you were an awesome, busy guy who had a lot of things going on and you weren't always next to your phone? Maybe you're doing something outside. You're playing football with your friends or having a barbecue, or you're in the mountains hiking, or you're going on a bar crawl in the city or whatever, and you don't have your phone always exactly where you can hear it or feel it buzzing. It's okay to not always be available. And if you are always available every time a woman calls, texts you, or wants to see you, again, that does all those things of lowering your standing, lowering your value, makes her less romantically interested, even if she likes you as a friend. And we don't want that. So don't always reply immediately. And again, we don't want to make this weird, like you always wait 2 hours and then text her back. No, we don't want her to pick up on that either, and that's a little weird. It's actually natural to do all this stuff, and it's not playing games if you do have a lot going on in your life and you have a life that you love living. So you shouldn't have to fake this, actually. You should just have the habit of living an awesome life. And then because of that, you're a little busy for a while and you didn't get to your text right away. And then when you're done with that activity, okay, now you text her back. But even if you don't have that going on, okay, still, don't always reply to her right away. As soon as she texts you, you don't have to text her back or see that text right away. You read it within the first 5 seconds. Don't do that. And I think we all kind of understand this at some level. So let's move on to a little bit more of an advanced topic. Number 6. Okay, this one might sound controversial to you, but I think it's very important, and it also shows that you're not too available. I don't think that you should ask a woman to hang out with you on Friday or Saturday or a holiday until she brings up why you guys don't hang out on the weekend. Now, that might sound like playing games to you, but there's a few reasons for this. First, Friday and Saturday night is when you should be busy doing fun things with your friends and hanging out with them, and you shouldn't really always be available on the weekend to spend time with her. And then number 2, most women have more things going on themselves on Friday and Saturday night. So if you ask a woman to meet you for a coffee on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, she's more likely to not have plans and be able to say yes to you than if you say, hey, let's meet for coffee at 7 p.m. on Friday or Saturday night. She probably already has plans to go out with her friends on those days or doing something. And so this is twofold. We want her to get in the habit of saying yes to you, and she's more likely to do that for a Sunday brunch or a Tuesday night coffee than she is being able to go out with you on Friday night, which is when we all hang out with our friends in general. That's number 1. And then number 2, the weekends are kind of a special time that should be reserved for people who have earned you spending time with them and paying attention to them on the weekend. And so you don't want to ask her for that yet. She has to kind of earn it by being an awesome person for a couple of dates first, and then you see who she is as a person. And now because you realize she's a good person, she's a cool person to hang out with, now you're inviting her into that next level of your life. And this is very subtle, but it does have a psychological effect in terms of your value in her mind. And the more you hold on to these kind of things, the more value you're going to have to the kind of woman that you want to be with. And so what we want to do is we don't want to ask her out or text her a lot on Friday or Saturday. We kind of want to be busy during those days, even if it's just cleaning your house. Being busy doesn't have to mean that you're on a private plane or on your yacht or something really cool or whatever you want to say. Being busy could just mean, hey, I need to organize my bedroom tonight. You want to be busy on Friday and Saturday night. You don't want to be too available on those days. So you don't want to be texting with her a lot on those days, and you don't want to ask her to meet up with you on those days at first until she brings it up. Like, hey, I noticed that we don't really go out on Friday or Saturday. Why is that? Or, hey, how come we don't hang out on the weekends? And then once she brings it up, now you can ask her to hang out on a weekend day. And it's even stronger on holidays. Do not ask her to meet up with you on Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever. That's too heavy. That's for family. That's for people you already know for 20 years. It's not for someone that you've been on 2 dates with. It's too heavy too soon, and it shows that you're too available. So do not invite her to go on a date with you on a holiday, and don't really text her too much on holidays either. If you want, you can send her one text like, hey, happy Thanksgiving. Just don't get too into it, because you should be busy hanging out with your family and the people you've known for 20 years. And then the next day you can text her. It's not a big deal, except that's Friday, so maybe you wait till Sunday. No problem. Always go slower and give her the opportunity to go faster instead of rushing into rejection like most men do. And that's what all the men before you have done with her, and now you're going to be different, and that's why she's going to choose you. And then lastly, number 7, if a woman asks you to meet up with her today, make her a counteroffer instead of accepting. So you want to push her away a little bit sometimes. Now, we want her to ask you out. That's great. But if she asks you to hang out 2 hours from now, you shouldn't really always be available for that. And I know this sounds subtle and it seems like something you should do, like, well, she wants to be with me, so let's go do it. No, you're an awesome guy. She can wait until tomorrow or Thursday or whatever to see you. And by then, she'll even want to see you even more, and you build up the tension even more, and things are even better. And so if a woman asks you to meet up with her today, think of it as a test or a potential trap where it seems really awesome, but we're going to make her a counteroffer. We're going to say, hey, I would love to see you, but I'm busy tonight. Can we meet up tomorrow instead? Or can we meet up on Thursday night instead? I'm open that day. And so you don't want to be available if she asks you to hang out the same day in general. Now, if you're just going for hookups, if she invites you over to her house at 11 p.m., go for it, okay? That's fine. You can totally do that. There's no problem if you're just casually dating, going for hookups. Go ahead. Probably want to do that. However, if you want to be in a long-term relationship with a woman and you want her interest in you to go up over time and for her to fall in love with you, then you should not agree to hang out with her the same day, especially in those first 3 to 5 dates, that kind of first window. You don't want to show her that you're so available that you can come over right now just because she wants you to. In that case, you want to do a little pushing instead of pulling and make her a counteroffer. So you're not rejecting her date offer. You're not rejecting her offer to hang out. You're actually accepting it. You're just saying, I can't do it tonight and I really want to. Can we do it tomorrow or Thursday or the next day or whatever instead? So you're still accepting it. You're just not being too available at the same time, which is the whole point of this presentation. And that means that you're not putting her interest in you at risk, and it's going to pay off over the long term. And if you want a long-term relationship, then obviously that's exactly what we want. And so again, if your goal is to have an awesome girlfriend or an amazing wife, if she says, hey, come over today, say, oh man, I would love to see you. I can't do it today. Can we do it tomorrow instead? And that's how not to be too available with a woman that you're really interested in. And the more interested you are, the harder it is to do these things, and that's why they work. But again, we want her interest to go up during those first 2 to 3 months, so this is what we're going to do from now on. And if you want to know everything that you can do to raise a woman's interest from wherever it starts when you meet her to the point where she falls deeply in love with you and then stays deeply in love with you, if that's what you want, then make sure you grab our best-selling Attract and Keep Her system right now if you haven't already. Inside the Attract and Keep Her system, we go over exactly what to do step by step from the first moment that you're with a woman until you've been together for 75 years to make sure her interest goes up, to make sure it stays high forever, and how to build a great relationship with her. And if you like our YouTube presentations, then we also have an audiobook version of Attract and Keep Her as well that's linked below this video. So if you like these audio trainings, definitely get the audiobook version of Attract and Keep Her. And so if you want the audiobook version, click on the link below this video. And if you want the ebook version, go to attractandkeepher.com/system. That's attractandkeepher.com/system and get Attract and Keep Her right now. And by the way, at checkout, if you get the ebook version, you can add the audiobook version on for a much lower price as well. So you can get both by going to that link also if you want. And then if you're not really interested in a relationship right now and you just want to casually date, then make sure you grab the Good Guy Guide system right now. So inside the Good Guy Guide, we kind of focus in on the attraction phase. And we go over exactly what to do step by step from the first moment you meet a woman you're attracted to until you end up at her place or she ends up at yours, and then what to do to escalate from there as well, so that both of you are still smiling in the morning. And even if you're just casually dating right now, if you follow the process that we cover in the Good Guy Guide, you're both going to feel good in the morning after you hook up. And then if you decide that you want to keep dating a specific woman for a long-term relationship, following the steps inside this system makes it really easy to switch over to what we cover inside Attract and Keep Her if you meet that woman that you want to keep dating. So if all that sounds good to you, go to datingadviceformenwholovewomen.com/GGG. That's datingadviceformenwholovewomen.com/GGG, and get the Good Guy Guide right now. And of course, we also have a lot of free stuff out there for you as well. And of course, there's a lot of other trainings on this YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked out our other videos, there's a lot of videos on our channel. So definitely go through all of that training. And then we also have some free ebooks and even full courses available for you as well. And so as a thank you for listening to this presentation, I'd like to offer all of that to you. And you can get all that free stuff by going to datingadviceformenwholovewomen.com. That's datingadviceformenwholovewomen.com. I'm Jim Wolf with Dating Advice for Men Who Love Women, and I'll talk to you later.